providing support to at-risk juveniles and inmates. And there's quite a nice quote on the website that I saw this morning, so I just wanted to read that out before I hand over the floor to Troy. And it goes like this, that every effort to create reform adds to our national quality of life. And I thought that was a nice way to start Troy's presentation. So Troy, please.
Thank you, gracias. Good. Video.
The National Lead Institution is the 21st century premier organization. Established in 2009, specifically to meet the needs of young men challenged by socio-economic deficiencies. The organization's mission is to rescue at-risk youth between the ages of 12 through 18 who have been suspended or expelled from traditional schools. The overall goal is to impart leadership skills, develop self-esteem, foster ability, and instill discipline. Each of these components are required for the positive development of young men today. The National Lead Institute accomplishes its mission by providing strategic educational guidance through the use of a proprietary system of programs, coupled with vocational skills training. The system includes innovative components such as, but not limited to, core curriculum reading, mathematics, communication, and vocational training, internal, external, and interactive group therapy. All of the activities are highly interactive, state-of-the-art, and cutting edge. The learning outcome of the program is to ensure that students complete and graduate from high school, attain competency in foundational skill areas, as well as learn to manage their anger and employ conflict resolution techniques. At the National Lead Institute, participants are taught to harness their leadership potential to achieve positive goals, transform themselves into individuals with strong self-esteem, activate their ability to accomplish tasks, and to garner the discipline to live their lives on purpose and with purpose. Become a partner today. When we change lives, we change the community. Join the National Lead Institute as we change the community, one student at a time. For more information, visit our website at www.thenationalleadinstitute.org. Join us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Help us to lead the next generation. Leadership, esteem, ability, and discipline.
Good afternoon once more, and my presentation will be brief. The topic is on gender and human rights, mainstreaming in preventing and combating organized crime. Titled Empowering Civil Society, Integrating Gender and Human Rights in Organized Crime Prevention. Once again, good afternoon. It's indeed a privilege and a pleasure to sit with my distinguished panelists, and also I consider you delegates, regional delegates here at this very important forum. So here we see the importance of a whole of society approach. It is very important for us to have a whole of society approach. You know, there's an African proverb that states, if you want to go far, no, let me rewind. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's very important as it relates to the importance of a whole of society approach. Now, in this presentation this afternoon, it's very important to know that the indispensable value of the whole of society approach. None of us, no man is an island, no man stands alone. We cannot operate effectively in silos if we are going to achieve national safety in our country or national development in our country. Also, what is very important is the integration of gender and human rights perspective needed in policies, having the right set of policies, strategies, legislation concerning organized crime. And once we have that, it ensures the inclusivity of fairness and effectiveness of our initiatives. Very, very important. Civil society and multi-stakeholder participation. That's important. Civil society organizations are vital agents of change in this endeavor. For us to create change, it must start at the grassroots level. And I think my good sister mentioned about having a grassroots approach as it relates to our connection with the community, because if you want to create change, and change is not created from bottom up and is only coming from top down, the change will not be long lasting. Advocacy efforts. We all inside here should be advocates for change within our various communities. Community engagement, amplify marginalized voices. For me, I amplify the marginalized voices in the educational system. That's the at-risk juveniles in the educational system, as well as pre to post-release inmates transitioning from correctional facilities in the United States and the Caribbean, coming back to the Bahamas. And we're now extending our services with inmates transitioning from North America back into the Caribbean. We have to advocate for policies on gender equality, because and like my sister stated, many of our societies were built on what we call the male gender. And what has happened is that, for me personally, I grew up in a single parent home with my mom. And what I realized is that women can do things just as good as men, and sometimes even better. And like I always tell, because my organization is staffed with basically females. All right, I'm right now the only full-time male within my organization. And what I found out is that the females that work in my operation, they get the job done. Whereas we males, we compartmentalize stuff a lot. Whereas you'll find the females multitasking to get the work done. Policies on human rights, very important. The private sector plays a pivotal role in the collaboration effort, whereas they leverage its resources. As an NGO, our resources are limited. And so when you involve private sector, and we like to say private, public, and also civil society collaboration, so that we can utilize the money or the dinero or the lysium, okay, within those private entities. Also, they have their influences. Corporate Guyana, corporate Trinidad, corporate Bahamas, corporate Ecuador, corporate Colombia. They have the resources. So we need to know how best to leverage those resources for the vision and the mission of our civil society organizations. Now I'm going to tell you briefly about the National Lead Institute. And you see here, and I use these little sailboats because I'm a former military guy, naval officer, seagoing, like my friend from Costa Rica. All right. And I believe that, as John Maxwell stated, a rising tide raises all ship. A rising tide raises all ship. And so the National Lead Institute has been in the business. We are the foremost organization specializing in community correctional, reentry, alternative schooling, and drug treatment program. And I like to say the National Lead Institute is a correctional, training, and human services organization, providing services to the at-risk population and to the offender population, as well as training individuals who have a passion to help the vulnerable population. Our journey since 2009, Lead Institute has spearheaded transformative initiatives for pre- and post-correctional facility inmates and at-risk juveniles. We have pioneered modernizations within the Bahamas Correctional Services, integrating global best practices like nonviolent conflict resolution, at-risk intervention, and substance abuse prevention treatment system design. Our vision for every at-risk youth and offender to become a community leader and a model citizen. It's very important to have an idealistic vision, something that our population can actually drive themselves towards. Our mission: we build pathways from recovery to leadership within the at-risk and the offender population. Our goal, aim, and objective: to provide a cadre of competent professionals to design and implement evidence-based, research-driven programs for at-risk and offender communities, thus transforming those individuals to community leaders. And I want to put a plug in there. I can give you anecdotal examples of individuals who have exited or returned, we call them returning citizens, from prisons throughout the United States and the Bahamas. These individuals becoming what we call community leaders. These individuals actually giving back to the community for whom they have violated. Also, we have data, and I don't have the time to go into the data, and I would not bore you with the data because we know, sometimes statistics and everything can bore you. But we have individuals who came through our at-risk alternative schooling program, who are now police officers, who are now defense force officers, who are now lawyers, who are now psychologists, who have come through our program. Our initiatives basically focus on preventing re-victimization. And how do we do this? Well, we have a pre to post release program in Bahamas Department of Correctional Services up to 2021. And what that program did, we used our theoretical framework that we utilized was based on Lawrence Kohlberg theory of moral reasoning, whereas we help our clients who are residents at Bahamas Department of Correctional Services change their mindset so that these individuals will not reoffend once they re-enter society. For we know that 95% of the incarcerated population will be coming home. The question is not when they are coming home. The question should be asked how they are coming home. And that is a public safety issue. Prior to starting this organization, like I stated, I worked in the military, a seagoing force. I served as a probation officer after transferring from the military. I worked in the prison as a welfare officer, and then I resigned from government after 17 years just to return. Government used to pay me to do the work. And so 15 years I was not getting paid for doing this work because I had a passion. And while working as a welfare officer in the prison system, I have seen so much damage being done to our offender population, not because the individuals, their intent was to damage those individuals living there, because these individuals did not have the tools to effectively rehabilitate the offender who would be returning to their environment. So it became imperative of myself to prepare myself, because I was once at risk myself as a juvenile. I too was once what we call, I got kicked out of high school at one time. I grew up in marginal poverty. I know what it is to what we call not have a father figure in the home, single parent. I grew up in the inner city of New Providence, but they were all what I shared with my group earlier this morning. They were what we call the risk factors that I faced. But what mitigated those risk factors were the protective factors that my community provided for me. Church, faith, civil organizations like Boys Brigade, Royal Ambassadors, and the mentorship of real strong men in the community. You know, back then growing up, our community, we were raised as a village. So if I did something wrong, before my mom came home from work, I was chastised or disciplined by the neighbor. You cannot do that in 2024. So our initiatives, like I said, we focus on preventing re-victimization, and by doing that is to reform, rehabilitate those individuals who have entered the criminal justice system. And we focus on the key areas: leadership, esteem, ability, and discipline. We also promote gender-sensitive approaches in combating organized crime. Our organization first started out as a male-driven or male-focused organization. But what we realized in the juvenile arena, as the years went by from 2009 to 2012 to 2013 to 17 to now, is that a lot of females are getting involved in what we call not antisocial personality, but conduct disorder, opposition defiant disorder, and they are getting themselves in problems within the school system and within the community. They are actually aiding and abetting a lot of their male counterparts in criminal activities. So it was imperative for us to change our approach from just a male-centered organization. Because at one time, our philosophy, we believe, because, although we're not a faith-based organization, a lot of our faith or a lot of our principles was based on our faith. And we believe that if we have a broken male, we will have a broken relationship. We believe if we had a broken male, we would have a broken family. We believe that if we had a broken male, we would have a broken society. For we believe that so goes the male, so goes the relationship, so goes the male, so goes the family, so goes the male, so goes the society. So we build our theoretical framework upon that belief. By addressing root causes and empowering vulnerable populations, we contribute to a more just and equitable society. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. We harness collective strength of civil society, private sector, and government institutions. And let me just stop right there without entering or introducing anything new. What we realized, we had a lot of government institutions that their persons only came to work to get a salary to do a job. And so we in civil society had to do an evaluation on the individuals who were sent to us to be trained, so that we knew that they were the right fit. They had the capacity to take the information in and also will work that information out throughout the community implementation. And like my friend from Trinidad, Jones, right, talk about evaluation and monitoring is vital as it relates to our initiatives. And once we harness the collective strength of civil society, private sector, which has the money, and government institution, which has the legislation, we know the results will give us strides made in preventing and combating organized crime, and at the same time, at the same time, upholding gender equity and human rights. That ends my presentation. Is there any question? Are there any questions?
I have a question in relation to the ex-prisoners returning.
Returning citizens, we call them?
Well, returning
Citizens.
right?
Yes.
My question is there a screening process in place for these returning citizens to determine the level of exposure they would have had to the criminal activities and the assistance they may need to be reintegrated into society and not somehow introduce some of those experiences in
Okay. Well, at the National Lead Institute, we believe that reentry starts at the point of incarceration. The process is not a program. It's an evidence-based driven process where there is an evaluation done of the individual. Their psychosocial needs are addressed. Mental health, academics, all of those needs are addressed. A treatment plan is given to each individual based on their risk factors. Okay. Once that is done, they matriculate through the program, the reentry program, between 18 months to 2 years prior to entering their community. They are not then placed within a reentry program. We call it Project Reentry. The name of the subsidiary is Project Reentry Caribbean. They are placed within that 18 weeks program. Job readiness, family reunification, if they need any more further drug treatment or drug education, that is given. And so to answer your question in a roundabout way, yes, they are very prepared to enter their society. Remember I said in my presentation, 95% of individuals will leave prison. The question is not when, the question should be how. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Congrats on a great presentation and great work you're doing. Just two quick questions. As you kind of alluded to the first one in the sense in terms of what are the recidivism rates like? Do you have a lot of the young men that come to the program reoffending, or is it the case that you spoke about some of the careers that's going on now? Is it that that's basically status quo for most of them? And the final question is, what is he?
You're a young man. Okay, well, based on our data, our statistics, over the last 15 years, up until 2021, we had an excess of 3,000 inmates that matriculated through our program. The data for recidivating of those persons is 85%, or 8 out of every 10 person that completed our program successfully did not return to prison within the next 3 years. And we correlated that with individuals who did not come through our program. And we noticed that especially those short-termers, they would recidivate within 6 months to 12 months of their exit out of the correctional facility.
Yeah, the final question was, what is the public perception of programs such as this,
Well, Lead Institute is the only program that focuses this elaborately. And we have had great support. Over the last 15 years, we have gotten grants from the U.S. Embassy, INL, Templeton, IDB, local churches, local community stakeholders, individuals. So to answer your question, the support is great. Tremendous support. Though, like we stated, You don't never get a thank you from the community generally, but once we see one person turn away from the criminal justice system, then we know that we would have reached our mission and our vision. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question is about for men that have been in prison and they have grew violence environments, they tend to have like a very toxic masculinity. How you break down that mindset and how you work, a gender approach in your programs.
Okay. This was a fight that we had when we did the GBV, toxic. And I'll probably let my good friend here answer that part. But the part I want to speak to, I'm having a senior moment just now. Answer that last part of the question you said. How do I? Oh, right. Remember I said the theoretical framework that our theoretical framework that we use was based on Lawrence Kohlberg theory of moral reasoning. We know that everyone in this room makes decision on a certain level. Some people back scratching, some people pleasure versus pain, some people the law is the law, some people are altruistic in their approach, like the Nelson Mandelas, the Mother Teresa's, and we call it universal ethical principles. So what we do is we move through cognitive behavioral treatment programming, changing the mindset, because we know that a lot of our offenders, even the at-risk ones, come to us with what we call faulty belief system. So we believe once we change your belief system, we can change your actions going forward. And that is how we change our mindset of our clients that come through our program. In addition to that, restorative justice is a vital component of our programming, which means, and all of you, I'm preaching to the church, I'm preaching to the choir, all of you know that some form of victim satisfaction should be met by the offender. And it doesn't mean that when we talk about restorative justice, it doesn't mean that the particular offender and the victim himself, they don't necessarily meet, but the offender meets with the community because he would have or she would have violated community norms. And so we try to make sure they give back restoratively, pay it forward, we like to say. Okay? Any other question? We have one more question. Okay, good. No more question. Good. Clear as mud? Clear as mud? Okay, good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Troy. At UW, we often like to say that prevention is the best cure, but I